Welcome to Red Dead Redemption 2 mod scripting tutorial using ASI plugins. Let's go over the requirements first. So there are two basic requirements. The first is you must have an IDE. So here I am going to use Visual Studio Community Edition 2019. And I recommend you to do the same. The second requirement is Scripthook SDK. Now, what is exactly Scripthook SDK? The Scripthook SDK is a static library to use with the native scripting engine of Red Dead Redemption 2 to develop ASI plugins. To download Scripthook SDK, you have to visit this site, devc.com. Now I will include a link in the description below, so be sure to check that out. Okay, so now once you have visited this site, just scroll down below and you will find two download links. The first one being the plain download link, and the second one, download SDK. We are going to download both of these files, but first we are going to download the plain download link. So go ahead and click on the plain download link and download the associated file. Once your download is complete, you will end up with a zip file. So to extract a zip file, you will need a compression program. So you can use any of the compression programs that are available on your computer and extract the zip file. Once you have extracted the zip file, you are going to access the extracted folder. Once you are in the folder, you are going to access the bin folder. And here you can see you have three files. The first file is the file which loads the ASI plugins. The second file is the sample native ASI trainer, which is provided by Alexander Blade himself. And the third file is the Scripthook RDR2.dll. Now we are going to copy all three files and make sure that the Scripthook.dll works properly in our game. So copy these files or cut it as per your preference and paste it in your game exe directory. Now, once the files are copied, go ahead and launch the game. Once you are in the game, press F5 to load the ASI plugin. As you can see, the ASI plugin has been successfully loaded. This means that everything is set up properly, and we may proceed to develop scripts. Now we are going to download the SDK from the same website that we visited before. So just scroll down and here you can see download SDK link. Just click on that link and download the file. After downloading the SDK, you will end up with another zip file. Now before extracting this zip file, you will need to create a new folder. So go ahead and create a new folder. And we are going to call the folder My ASI Project. After the folder has been created, go ahead and open the zip file with your favorite compression program and copy all the files inside this zip file into your newly created project folder. Once the extraction is complete, go into your project folder, and here you can see there are 3 folders. The first INC folder contains all the header files that you can use in your scripts. The lib folder contains the static library of Scripthook RDR2. And finally, we have the samples folder. So this is the main folder that you are going to use to access your Visual Studio project. Specifically, look at the SLN file. This file can be opened via Visual Studio. Now, you need to remember this path for the project because in the future segments of the video, this path will not be reiterated. Considering that you have already installed Visual Studio, we are going to double-click on nativetrainer.sln to open the project. If you are prompted to retarget the project, hit OK. Now you can see on the right-hand side, I have a window called the Solution Explorer. If this window for some reason does not appear for you, what you can do is go into the menu bar and click on View menu. And the first option right there is the Solution Explorer. You can click that and a Solution Explorer will pop up. Now we are going to explore the file structure of Native Trainer. So right here in the Native Trainer's Solution Explorer, what you are going to do is you are going to expand this drop-down list. And here you can see there's an include folder. Expand that and you can see the header files. You can open any of these files by double-clicking on them and they will open in the IDE's default text editor. Below you can see there are a bunch of CPP files, but for now I'm going to introduce you to one of the main files. That is the keyboard.h file. So double click on the keyboard.h file. In this file, you can see there's a bunch of keyboard interface procedures provided by Alexander Blade. Now, this is based on keyboard hook. So the Alexander Blade recommends to use the keyboard hook interface that he has provided here instead of using the Windows API functions. So just to keep that in mind. Moving on, we have the main CPP file. You don't really need to make any changes here while scripting. Next, we have the script CPP file. This contains your script logic and the main entry point of your script. If you scroll down to the bottom of this file, you can see there's a script main function in here, along with some other logic that we are going to ignore for now. The remaining files here are script menu. This is the menu of the Native Trainer that we saw earlier. If you want source code samples or some samples about the logic from the internals of the trainer that we saw earlier, this file can give you much information about how the menus are drawn, the various functions like drawing text, drawing rectangles, and all the interfacing between the buttons and the keys. On a side note, if you want more details on the implementation of the Native Trainer, you can take a look at the source code in the script.cpp file. Here you can find all the implementation details of the Native Trainer that we just saw. Now we are going to move on to building our first ASI plugin. So select the build menu. and select Build Native Trainer. In the output window at the bottom, you can see the status of the build. As you can see, the build has been successful. So the question now is, where do the build files end up? To answer that question, we are going to open up the projects folder. Note that this is the same folder that contains the nativetrainer.sln. Now we go into the native trainer folder. Then we go into the bin folder and the release folder. Here you can see we have the ASI plugin that has been built. Now you can copy this ASI plugin and paste it into your game.exe folder. For the next part, we are going to create a template for scripting. To create a template for scripting, we need to open the script.cpp file. So make sure that the script.cpp file is open. Now we also need a temporary file. So I am just going to use the generic notepad program that Windows provides. Now back to our script.cpp file. What we are going to do here is we are going to scroll all the way up to the beginning of the file and copy all the include directives till scriptinfo.h and paste it in our temporary file. Now we are going to scroll all the way down to the end of the file and scroll up a little bit. Here you can see you have two functions, void main and script main. Now in the void main function, you have a infinite while loop. Inside that while loop, there's an if statement with a body. You need to delete the if statement and its body. And then you need to delete the menu controller statement. Above the infinite while loop, there are two statements. You need to delete them both. After that, just copy the void main and script main function and paste it in our temporary file. Okay, now our temporary file is ready. This is a template file, so you can save this if you want to. After that, we return to our script.cpp file and just select everything in this file and delete it. After deleting that, what you are going to do is you're going to copy the template that we have just created and paste it in the script.cpp file. Before we start scripting, I would like to introduce you to some native functions. So in the Solution Explorer window, under the include folder, there's a file called natives.h. Double click to open that. Here you can see this is a CPP header file, and you have a lot of namespaces in here, and each of those namespaces have certain set of functions inside them. You can use these functions to make changes in the game. So when you are developing a script, you are going to use these functions to mod the game. As you can see, a lot of these functions do not have a lot of description for them or documentation for them. For this reason, I have to recommend some other website to have some kind of documentation on these functions, like modrdr.com or the 5M native reference. I will include both of the links below in the description, so you can check them out if you need. So on modrdr.com, in the native DB section, you can see in this column you have all the namespaces here, and you can click on them to look at the set of functions that they encapsulate. And there's a neat little feature that lets you search with a specific keyword. So for example, if I want to find a function that has a teleport keyword in it, what I would do is type teleport. And here you can see we have found a function start player teleport in the namespace player. Now these namespaces won't exactly match every time, but most of the time they are common in the native DB and the natives.h. So what you can do is you can see that there is a cryptic format of function right after the invoke directive. You can copy that cryptic number for function. I think it's called the function hash. Copy that and search it in the native DB. As you can see, we searched for the getPlayerPet function, and the hash actually matches the getPlayerPet function in the natives.h. Now in the Solution Explorer, once again, open the script menu.cpp file. So here in the file, you can see we have a function called drawText and drawRect. For now, we look at drawText as we are going to use this function in our program. Now look at the function's body. It contains a statement which has a function from the namespace UI. So it uses the drawText function. So the drawText function, which Alexander Blade has created, is in fact a wrapper function, which wraps the native H function from the UI. As you can see, I am going to copy this drawText, and if I search it in the natives.h, I am going to find a drawText function in native.h under the namespace UI. Okay, now let's start coding our first ASI script. So let's just switch to script.cpp, and in our main function, what we are going to do is first we are going to create something simple. So for example, we are going to create a script that freezes the in-game clock to 12 AM. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a variable that can hold the state of the script. That is, it's going to be either enabled or disabled. There are only two outcomes. So the amount of information we require is only two possibilities, so the Boolean data type is perfect for this variable. Next up, we are going to need a key to toggle the script on and off. So we are going to create a symbolic constant for that sole purpose. And I am going to insert the key as F5. Now we are going to create a if statement to flip the script state to true or false, just like a toggle switch. Now to flip the script state to on or off, true or false, we need a keyboard input. So remember that the Alexander Blade keyboard hook interface is already available, so no need to use the Windows API functions. So if you just quickly look into keyboard.h, you can see the is key just up function being useful here. So I am just going to use that in my if statement. And as an argument, we are going to enter our symbolic constant, which is, of course, the F5 key. So, as you can see, if the key was just up, then this condition will evaluate to true, or the body of the if statement will get executed. Now, in the body of the if statement, we are going to write a statement So as you can see, this statement will flip the script state every time the key is pressed, thereby toggling our mod. Now we are going to write another if statement. This time the if statement is going to evaluate the mscript state. Now, if the mod is toggled on, this block of code will run. Now we take a look into the natives.h. To change the clock time to a constant 12 AM, we need to assert the clock time again and again, each iteration of the while loop. So what we are going to do is we are going to first search for a function that can set the clock time. So I am going to use the clock keyword and search in the native.h. As you can see, the very first match is the set clock time, and it has arguments in hours, minutes, and seconds under the namespace time. So let's use that function. So 0, 0, and 0 means 12 AM. Now our code is ready. But let me just explain to you what really is happening in this loop to better understand your script. As you can see, there's an infinite while loop here. So as soon as we enter the loop, the if statement gets triggered and it checks if the key was just pressed. If the key was pressed, then it flips the state of the mod. If the mod state is true, which is on, then it will keep asserting the time. And you may ask, what is this wait statement for? So what the wait statement does is when this wait statement is executed, what happens is our script enters a wait state, thereby giving the game engine some time to process the changes that we have made in the script body. Once those changes are processed by the game engine will draw its frames, thereby reflecting the changes that we have made to the data. So to build this script, what we do is we go to the build menu and click rebuild native trainer. Once the build is successfully completed, go into your build folder and copy or cut your freshly created script and paste it in your game's exe directory. Now just launch the game to test if the script works fine. Now once you are in the game, as you can see, it's daytime. And let's just check the time. So as you can see, it's 8:27 a.m. Now remember the toggle key that you used for your script to activate it. In this case, it's F5. So I'm going to press F5. And our script has successfully worked. As you can see, the time is now 12 a.m. indeed. So let's see if it remains that way, because our script is about freezing the time to 12 a.m., not just changing it.
Been a while, girl.
So let's ride around for a bit. As you can see, it's still 12 a.m. So our script definitely works. Now that you have successfully created a simple script, we are going to move on and add a simple feature to our program. For example, we are going to add a function that draws text on screen for the users to read. To do that, first you have to look at the Solution Explorer. Under your native trainer drop-down list, there are two files, scriptmenu.cpp and scriptmenu.h. You have to exclude these files from the build in order for the next functionality to be implemented. So right-click on the scriptmenu.cpp file, go into Properties, and under the General category, there's an option called Exclude from the Build. Select the drop-down list and click Yes. Click Apply and hit OK. Do the same for scriptmenu.h. Now that those two files have been excluded from the build, we are again going to open scriptmenu.cpp. In the scriptmenu.cpp, you can see you have a void draw text function, which is a wrapper function. You are going to copy the whole function and paste it in your script.cpp over your main. Now that we have defined the function, what we are going to do is we are going to start coding in the logic. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a variable. Now notice the first if statement that gets triggered upon key press, and then it flips the script state. After that, we are going to add an extra statement. So here we are going to assign the message time a new value. The getTickCount function here returns a 32-bit integer which contains ticks in milliseconds since the counter started counting. Now we are going to add additional 3 seconds, that is 3000 milliseconds. Under the main logic of code, we are going to add another if statement. Again, we are going to use the value that is returned by the getTickCount function. Now we are going to compose a conditional expression from this. So what this conditional expression basically says is if the current tick count is less than the message time, so the message time is the amount of time that the message is allowed to be seen, then the draw text function gets activated. Now inside the draw text function you have 3 arguments, the first 2 being the XY coordinates, which are normalized. That is, they have range from 0 to 1, 0, 0 being the top left corner of the screen. So if I want to draw or make the origin of the drawn text to the center of the screen, I would type in 0.5 and 0.5. After that, for the third argument, our actual string that we wish to display, okay, so that's it. Now we are going to build this project. So once again, go into the build menu and rebuild native trainer. After a successful build, you will have a built ASI file. So cut or copy this ASI file into your game folder. Once that is done, go ahead and launch the game. So once you're in the game, try and remember what key you have used to toggle the mod. In this case, it's F5. So I'm just going to use the F5 key now. As you can see, a message called "the time freeze has been toggled" was shown for about 3 seconds. So our mod successfully works. Now that concludes the tutorial. I hope I helped you guys, and I hope you are now self-sufficient in developing your own mods, or at least getting started, as this is a beginner tutorial. And that's it. I will see you guys in the next video.